Do you feel the pressure to grow your business, but doing so feels a bit like drowning? Welcome to Slow Growth Business, the show for business owners and leaders to quiet the noise and lead your business to success, one day at a time, slow and steady. If you feel your business is running you and you're ready to run it, you've come to the right place. Now, here are your hosts, business coaches Jimmy DeGroot and me, Kyle Bullock. Well, here we are, ladies and gents, on another beautiful day for another beautiful cold open of the Slow Growth Podcast. My name is Kyle Bullock, and sitting across from me on a computer screen that you can't see is Jimmy DeGroot.
Folks, we decided that we should tell our stories because we need you to have some idea of who you're listening to, right? On a weekly basis, if you're with us weekly. So thank you, especially to our listeners that listen all the way through.
Now, I'm excited because I'm going to get to ask you questions about your story. And I was thinking about this before we started recording today. Boy, what is the theme that I would want to ask Jimmy that I have learned from your life lessons? I think there is going to be a theme that pops out. Maybe I'm going to lead you on to your answers a bit by this, but one of the things that comes to mind when I think about your story, what I've learned about you, what I've learned from you, the joyful ability to adapt to situations outside your control. And I love it. I think about your story. We're going to get into it in a second. You have had this theme. I don't know if you recognize it or know it, but I have sensed this theme in your life where something outside your control can happen and has changed the course of your career. You seem to take it with joy and excitement, culminating in, by the way, the very random connection that happened between Jimmy and I to even start working together. Literally random. So we're going to get to that. But first, Jimmy, would you agree that you have had some curveballs in life that have changed your direction to get you to a destination you didn't know you were going to?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Every day I kind of wake up and I go, oh my gosh, I get to do this today. How lucky am I? Or I don't have to do this today. How lucky am I? It's just way cool. Yesterday, we were going to record this yesterday, and I just called you up. I said, hey, it's going to be 75 degrees here in Wisconsin at the end of October. I got to go do some yard stuff. And you're like, hey, go have fun. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, where does the story start before we get to getting to take off on a random Tuesday to enjoy the beautiful weather? Where does your origin start?
Listen, the podcast is only 4 hours long, so I'm going to keep. Listen, I grew up in Little Chute, Wisconsin. That's near Appleton, which is near Green Bay. It's so mid eastern Wisconsin. Anyway, I grew up here and went off to school to UW of Oshkosh, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to school there for marketing, and I ended up working for a jeweler. And a jeweler called me. He knew me because I was the downtown manager. It was like a downtown association of stores, and I was the promotions guy, the marketing guy. I was the first job out of college. You make $21,000 a year. I'm excited to do it. Anyway, so I was doing that, and that was kind of coming to an end. So this jeweler's called me and he said, hey, why don't you come and work for me? And I thought, jewelry, this sounds fun. I mean, people that walk into a jewelry store are generally pretty happy, right? They're pretty excited to be there. So I went and I dove into that, and I always thought I'd be pretty good at sales, even though I hadn't done anything in sales. I worked at grocery stores and, department stores and things like that. But so this was actual direct selling. That was J. Anthony Jewelers in Neenah, Wisconsin. And then after about a year or so, I went to work at Avenue Jewelers in Appleton, Wisconsin, right next door, basically. The store was a coin shop that had turned into a jewelry store, a huge real estate collection. They were buying it right and selling it right. And so these three partners, Bob, Joe, and Larry, it almost sounds like a comedy trio. But Bob, Joe, and Larry were running this store, and they were running it so well because the building was paid for, the inventory was paid for. And they thought, we're going to take a chance and hire this crazy Jimmy DeGroot guy we're going to have him be our insurance replacement specialist. So my job was not only going to be in sales, not only going to be in jewelry, but my job would be to take insurance adjusters to lunch and go to golf outings and, go to their Christmas party and things like that. So that sounded kind of fun. So I started doing that. And then one day I was having breakfast with the guys. I said, nobody's really managing this store. you know, we got to,
How old are you when you calling them out like that?
I was, I was 24, 24, 25.
24-year-old guy
Yeah.
out of college saying, you don't know how to manage the
No,
store.
no, I wasn't saying you don't know how. I said nobody is
Nobody
managing.
is.
Nobody's managing the store. And Bob says, well, like Karen makes out the schedule and, Sandy does this and Catherine does that. I'm like, yeah, but nobody's managing it. Nobody's, So, and they just kind of looked at me up right there at the breakfast. And they're like, what? Why don't you do it? All right, I'll do it. All right. And look, our eggs are here. Anyway, so I became the manager of the store. And what a really neat thing about working with these guys, the attitude was, we're going to be great at everything we do. And if we're not great at it, if it's not fun, we're going to go find out who does it best, spend some time with them and learn how to do it best. So when it came to inventory management, when it came to marketing, when it came to, managing the staff, that type of thing, every one of those areas we invested or they invested into. Let's go and explore. Let's bring in consultants to teach us how to do this well. We had an opportunity to buy a second store up in Wausau, Wisconsin, which was called Jim Krishak Jewelers. So my wife, Sharon, and I moved up there and we said, hey, if you guys buy the store, I'll come up and manage it. So I moved up to there and managed it. And eventually what we did is we were involved in, at the time, I think it was called a FIT group, FIT, F-I-T. And if you're in the jewelry business, folks, there's this thing years ago called skull groups or accountability group. And it's fantastic because you get together with a dozen or so jewelers and people in your business that you told everything to, you showed everything, you were held accountable by these people. You went and visited their stores. And I loved that because, again, that was being able to peer behind the curtain. And eventually, from the things that we had learned, not that we're that smart, but we learned, we knew what we didn't know. We went and found out. And then eventually people started calling me and saying, hey, would you come and teach me how to do what you guys did here? And so now I turned into a consultant, right?
Yeah.
And
Which is what I love. I think was what one of the many things that we connect on is if we don't know something, we're obsessed with figuring out
right.
not only how to do it, but how to do it well, like to work smart.
Yep.
And part of the ability of companies to adapt, and that word for me is so important because the most long running healthy businesses I've ever encountered, or people who have long-term careers, they all share the ability to adapt to their surroundings really, really well. Because you can't be around in business for 100 years and do things that you did, 100 years ago or 50 years ago, or even 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, we were honestly, a lot of retail companies were barely getting into advanced point of sales, like the processing. And now you couldn't imagine starting a company without one. Right. You have Square, you've got Clover, you've got all these entry level POS systems that we didn't even have back then.
Yep.
So anyways, I just find that fascinating, and something that we share is this obsession with, if we like problems, and because when we find out a problem that we don't know how to solve, we're usually calling each other up now and going, okay, we got to do a video on this. We got to talk about this issue.
Yeah,
you know anything about it?
Yeah, exactly. Or who do we know? Okay, so we did that. We did some really neat things. Sharon and I kind of wanted to move back to the Appleton area, and there wasn't really a way within the business model for that to happen. So I just kind of said to the guys, I'm going to go and do cell phone stores with this friend of mine, and I'm going to open some cell phone stores in the Appleton market. It's been fun. Love you guys and hugs and all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of took my toys and came back to Appleton. In the meantime, I learned one of the biggest lessons in business that I ever could have learned, which is first of all, make sure that attorneys have looked at your business agreement because the person that did it to me, I'm going to say to me, it was nefarious. It was wrong. Anyway, so first lesson there, pay for an attorney, get good paperwork, good legal paperwork on business agreements. But
Even
the other
with,
thing,
can I
what?
even point out, like you call him a friend at first,
Yeah.
even with friends, and
Oh,
I would say, especially with friends and family. Like,
yeah, yeah,
especially with friends and family, just get an attorney.
yeah,
Have someone do it. It saves you so many bad conversations over Thanksgiving dinner and
yeah,
cold shoulders in the end.
yeah.
Just do it.
And things you don't know about and things you can't foresee and all that kind of jazz. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a rabbit hole we could go down, but let's not do that. And the other thing too is I learned the two things. Pay for a good attorney to make sure you have a good attorney involved. Second is never get involved in a business because you think it's going to be easy cash and you're not passionate about it.
Mm.
You know, the cell phone business, everybody has a cell phone nowadays. And at this time, it was still very much a growing thing. And the phone company, or the company that I was going to work with, is growing in this market. And so, anyway, long story short, I had 5 stores. We turned them over to the company real quick to save the bleeding, so to speak. And then I got back into the jewelry business. I had a friend ask me to come and run her jewelry store. I did that for a short bit and then back to Appleton, ran a store here for a couple stores for a short while. Eventually, I had to get out of it because of that was a very uncomfortable work situation. I'm playing piano up at this church up in Green Bay. I was the music director up there. I meet this guy named Tony Reale, and he says, "Oh, you got to come and see the Super Bowl ad I did." He did a Doritos submission for Super Bowl ads, and then I went and saw it, and he was an amazing videographer. So I said, "Hey, you guys want to produce some jewelry ads?" I've always wanted to do some jewelry ads because now I started becoming a consultant again, right? So long story short on that is I became a consultant doing consulting things a few times a year and then working with these guys in video production to kind of bring it to where we are today. About 10 years ago, and today's 2024, so that was about 2012. Brian Rouse from Bay Area Diamond Company called me up and asked me if I'd come and train in his store once a week. And I said, why? And he said, well, I'm doing this much volume. I'm not even trying. What would happen if I actually trained my people how to sell? And I thought, you're absolutely right. And so then I thought about the model of which I've hired sales trainers to come into my store. And the model was, and we were just talking about this before this call, the model was you pay an expensive sales trainer to come in between 4 or 5 to 8, $10,000 a year to come in and do sales training for your staff for a couple days a year. And then business is great for a few months and then it just drops off to normal or, where it has been. And then you hire that sales trainer again next year, maybe for fourth quarter, and the sales go up again. It's just a cycle over and over again. And when I was talking to Brian, he said, I want every week. I need this every week. And I thought, you know what? There's a bunch of cameras around me here. I'm in a video production studio. How about if I record a sales training video and send that to you every single week? And he's like, boom, I'm in. So that's how this whole thing started was, me sitting in front of a camera teaching all of those things that I had paid consultants to teach me, you know?
10 years later and hundreds of videos later.
Yeah,
Right.
600. Yeah, 650 sales videos right now. So 650 weeks.
Your story to me is a wonderful example of how people can adapt because you basically created a company and a model that didn't exist. Now,
Right.
now it exists in different ways. I mean, you could think, well, we've got masterclass and you've got stuff on YouTube. I mean, you're just kind of inundated with all this stuff. And you carve this niche that wasn't there at that time because you saw the need,
Yeah.
right? And you kind of looked at the sum of your experiences and said, here's what I've got. Here's where the need is. Let me see if I can marry these two things together.
Right.
And to me,
Yeah.
that's the core of adapting in any business, is not just looking at, well, I'm a jewelry store, so I sell jewelry. It's looking beyond that and saying, I happen to sell jewelry. What I really sell is building relationships. Or
Right. Right.
I'm a music store. Well, what I happen to do is sell instruments. What I really do is I bring musicians together, right? And then you take that and you marry that with a need. And that's how businesses change and adapt so nimbly, so beautifully. And I think, okay, someone could look at your life and go, you went from marketing kid in college to basically a jewelry store clerk to this manager by the seat of your pants to a upscale manager of a luxury jewelry store to a cell phone store operator to you just kind of look at all these paces, and as you do, you go, it's connected through your ability to adapt, to love people and help them achieve more.
Yep.
That seems to be something in all throughout your career that I'm hearing.
Yeah, and in no small part was the element of faith. I mean, there were a lot of times, and one time literally where I literally went and laid down in the woods on my back, and I looked up, and I'm like, God, all right, I don't know where to turn here. The pressure is off me right now. I'm not even concerned about it anymore. It's all you from here because there's nothing more I can do. When I was losing the cell phone stores and things like that, but all along, of course, yes, there's faith. And I will tell you, it's really easy to talk about faith when you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Really easy to talk about faith. But go out there, folks, and follow a farmer around for 6 weeks. Follow a farmer, follow a construction guy whose jobs are depending upon the weather and how many crews he can get places. That's faith. But the other thing too, the need that I saw was that jewelry stores, particularly that trained their teams, were very few and far between. And it seemed to be a very privileged thing because people couldn't afford it. And so I really enjoyed, and I'm most proud of, and I'm most proud of this. I'm most proud of the fact that for $100 a month, we can give you 4 very, very quality sales training videos and topics that can help your team grow. And so, I mean, there are stores on our platform that are 3 employees. And I'm so proud of that. And especially you are too, because we get phone calls from people almost in tears going, oh my gosh, thank you for training on this. Or would you train on this? Or here's what I'm going through right now. Can you help? And we just dig that,
Oh yeah.
That's so much fun. And then we also have stores that are doing $20 million and they have a training program that they may have instilled themselves, but then they put ours in to create that discussion every single week or to look at another perspective.
It's interesting because a couple of weeks ago, we had a podcast where we talked about the economy and elections and how they exert sometimes this outside pressure, and businesses have a temptation to look at outside pressures like that and kind of inflate them a bit. And this speaks a bit to that because yes, outside pressures can cause your company to feel like it's falling apart. Your story of the cell phone stores falling apart, for example, this is some outside pressures and some internal pressures. Everything's kind of falling apart and it's a mess. The businesses that do well and the people that do well in those circumstances adapt by taking take what you've got to give, find the need and marry those two things together. I like how you brought them together, and that's through faith. Whatever your faith inclination is, listener, as far as religiosity, we're not going to try to convince you of anything right now with that. But the idea of faith that we both share, this having a substance of things we hope for and evidence of things we don't see. I don't know what's coming next. I don't know how this is going to pan out. I'm not even going to allow it to eat my lunch today. I'm going to have faith to know that whatever's next, I have something to give,
Yeah,
something to serve. That's hard. And I hope for businesses hearing your story can see the trajectory of how your life has gone and use it as an example that it can lead you into places you didn't think that you'd end up. But having that faith to get you there will take you on really amazing, fantastic adventures.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
that leads us to a phone call that we had early in this year, out of the blue. I will set the stage. You can finish it up because it really ends on some faith in what the heck we're doing here on this
Yeah.
podcast and how Jimmy and I meet. Because a year ago, I didn't know Jimmy. I knew of Jimmy. I was a subscriber to his platform actually. And I'm sitting in my office one day and I get a phone call from Jimmy's cell phone. Somehow I had your number and somehow you had mine. To this day, I still have no idea why either of us had each other's number. But I get a phone call from Jimmy and he calls me and he says, I want you to do a sales training video. And I had done some stuff. I had done some speaking gigs and some writing for trade publications, but I was sitting there really perplexed
But
because
you were really perplexed because I said your wife contacted me and said,
that's right.
right? That's why you were really perplexed.
Which was very bizarre because my wife has nothing to do with the industry I work in. She's not even in the same industry.
Never know me or email me.
No. I asked her that night. I said, do you know Jimmy DeGroot? She goes, Jimmy to who? I was like, what? Okay. So fill in the gaps. We have this conversation on the phone and it leads to us. I do a video for you on the sales platform, which then goes to another video, which I will spiral to say it then leads to us working more together, forming a partnership and sitting here talking today, working with clients, etc. But fill in the gaps with a bit of the faith that got you to even trust me to do something in the first place and work with me still.
Well, my mentality isn't it's all about is not it's all about me. It's all about you guys. And so the what I do from time to time on the train retail platform is say, hey, send me your ideas. If you got something great you're doing, you want to share with the group, let us know. We'll have you on. And so a lady emailed me, and to this day, I cannot remember who that was. But she emailed me and she said, oh my goodness, my husband is so amazing at what you just talked about. You need to have him on. You need to interview him. So I said, great, get him. Let's get him. And I even emailed him at the time. Your wife said to, reach out and blah, blah, blah. So a few weeks had gone by and I thought, I never did hear from that guy. Who was that guy? Who was that guy? And I thought, Kyle, the name Kyle came to my brain and I thought it must be Kyle Bullock. And then I just went through my receipts because it's a monthly subscription. So I just typed in Kyle Bullock in my email and sure enough, there's Bullock's jewelry store. So I'm like, I'm going to call this guy. By the way, I'm driving home at the time and ready to stop at the grocery store. And I call up Kyle and I'm like, hey, your wife reached out to me. You never got back to me. And I got to have you on the platform. She just thinks you're the best. And you're like, what are you talking? But then but I just happened to be talking at Palm Springs, or I just happened to do this thing for IJO. I just happened to be a speaker. And then I think you said at the time, I kind of always wanted to get into this. And I've been entertaining how to do this. And hey, let's just do a couple of videos. And so we did the videos and, the rest is history, so to speak.
Yeah. Now we built the management platform, which does for managers and owners of small businesses what we hope to do for this, what you've done for the sales teams of those stores. And we've gotten to work with clients one-on-one, and the true joy I've had two great joys come out of this partnership so far in just a few short months. One is seeing our clients, just like you said, message us, call us, talk to us about the victories in their life. And it's not always financial. Often it's, I have a life now. I have time to meet my grandkids. I've got time to spend with my kid. I've got breathing room. Like that makes my day. And two, it is getting to work with you, Jimmy. And, we've both at different times in our career have been lone wolves doing our own thing.
Yep.
Every time I try to do something on my own, I would be horribly frustrated, usually dejected, and want to give up pretty quick. I get energized every time we have a conversation. whether we have a problem that we're trying to solve or it's just encouragement or whatever. I get energized knowing I'm not alone and we're multiple smarter working together than ever by ourselves. And so our impact is so
exponentially
much
smarter.
greater.
Is that the word you were looking for?
What was that?
It was exponentially smarter, the word you were looking for.
Yeah, but I like the word that I made up because I'm going to trademark it now and put it on a t-shirt. Multiply. That's innovation, Jimmy. And if I could share anything with our listeners, the way to make this hit home for them, what I hope that they get out of our stories.
Got to wrap it up.
Yeah, we got to wrap this sucker.
Wrap it up, Kyle.
What I hope you get out of this stories, Jimmy's story, my story. Number one, at least in Jimmy's story, is seeing an example of someone who's able to take adversity or opportunity and adapt to those surroundings. You never started a career that said, I want to be in jewelry. You never started a career saying, I want to be in video production and do a subscription model. That didn't even exist when you started your career. It wasn't even in the world of possibilities. But you took the opportunity and the need, you walked out with a little faith, and that's how you adapt. Mm-hmm. And if you're in a business right now that feels like it is kind of a mess, look at your ability to adapt and use Jimmy's story as an inspiration to let you have some faith to step out in ways that you wouldn't have otherwise, even if it's just in investing in yourself and your people a little bit more every day.
Right.
The other thing I would hope people can take away from our stories, Jimmy, is the value of not venturing out into something alone.
Huge.
Partnerships they can be sticky and messy. You've had that experience. So have I. More than once. And it's not, but what makes them a joy and dream is when you have someone, first of all, who's going to share in that with you and has the same values as you do, and you are helping make each other better. Or you have like your example of the coin guys, Bob, Larry, and Joe. They went out looking for people who did something better than they did.
Right.
Said, exactly. I want to learn from that. I don't want to do this by myself. I want to learn from someone who's doing it better.
Yep.
We're always better together.
Go out and make people's lives better.
I hope this made your life better, listener. I really do. Hit subscribe. That way you don't miss this. It's 20 minutes a week. You get to hear us talk about the things that help you grow your business slow and steady towards success, little by little, every single day. And it removes the pressure of feeling like you have to be something or be everything to everybody and grow your business by some huge margin. If you're feeling stressed by your business, just chill out. Check us out on trainretail.com. Hit subscribe, listen to us. This podcast is free. You know that because you've listened to it this far. So hit subscribe and we'll talk to you again next week. How about that, Jimmy?
All right. See you guys.
We hope you leave this episode a little better than when you first began. If you'd like more resources to grow your business slow, steady, and consistently, check out our on-demand video catalog at trainretail.com. Or if you have a question or frustration we can help address in your business, write to us about it. We love to help solve big, ugly problems. So hit us up at kyle@trainretail.com or jimmy@trainretail.com. Good luck out there, and we will see you next time.